All right, we're live, Raj. Welcome to 2018. It's good to see you again. Happy New Year and happy birthday.
Thank you, Chris. Wish you an amazing 2018 as well.
And just to recap where we took last year we were developing your fellowship application for HERDSA, and we also were talking about e-mentoring through the process that we're doing right now. We established a model and we were writing a paper for the HERDSA conference. I think we were at a pretty good stage with the manuscript, so we don't need to really discuss that too much now. Would you agree?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's on the final stages, and I'm right now, as we speak, this morning, I'm working on drafting it to the final standards of HERD.
Excellent, excellent. So fabulous. So well done. Let's cross our fingers and hope all goes well for that. But let's talk about your fellowship application. Can you sort of just remind me where you're at with the FHERDSA portfolio?
Okay, so in terms of my fellowship, we had this discussions from almost 15, 16 months, and I received feedback from you on pretty much all the sections. There are 6 big parts, and I've received feedback from you on all of them. I think for some of them, I received feedback twice. So I have modified those things, and I have tried to incorporate in the final formatting standards in terms of the word limit, referencing style, evidence, and other bits and pieces. And I've sent that copy to you. And I think, based on my opinion, it's in a reasonably okay stage. And I'm very happy to work on it for a couple of more weeks or months, if needed, to get it to the final polished stage.
Yep, sounds good. Sounds good. I read through it a couple of weeks ago when you sent it to me, and yeah, there are some things that I can suggest if you like, but think of them as suggestions rather than absolutely necessary commandments or anything. Because it is, at the end of the day, it's your portfolio and it's your fellowship. So and also I think it's important to defend your writing style when appropriate. So I will write in a different way to you and others. So why don't we actually just have a look, see if I can do a screen share here, and we can have a little go. Let me see if I can do this. All right, can you see that, Raj?
Oh, absolutely, I can. Great.
All right, so there is you and your twin brother. I also like how you've got quite different hairstyles there, Raj. In the you've got sort of a spiky hair on the video, and you've got longer hair when you're next to it. I think it looks really good. So that was a nice way to start it. It also puts a face to the name. Okay, so I'm going to move through the table of contents, nice and well set out. Now, part 1, the introduction, the context. It's not accessible, but I still think it's an important part of the application because it kind of grounds and wraps around what you're doing, if that makes sense. So that all looked really good. I wouldn't really change anything there. And then we move on to part 2, the philosophy of the teaching statement. So the way I interpreted this, Raj, was that the way that you'd been brought up and your cultural influences, if you like, was very teacher-centric. And through your reflection, through your practice, through your engagement with the literature, you've kind of moved now to more of a learning-centric or a student-centric point of view. Is that about right?
Absolutely correct.
Okay, good. The only thing I would potentially change is where is it? Up a bit. Yeah. So students learn by doing through reflection, in action, and on action. Can you see that?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, I mean, I would just add potentially just some small things like, it's my belief, or I believe, or my I'm basing what I do on these kinds of beliefs, if that makes sense. That was the only thing there. So I think that was really good. I got a good idea of where you came from and what you were about. And
Yeah.
I'll just give you some high level stuff on the other criteria.
Yes.
Okay, so I can come. Let me stop sharing for a second and see if we can come back. Can you see me again?
Yes.
Okay, so Raj, when I was reading the individual criteria, I thought they've been improved and massaged and honed really well. But a couple of high level comments. The first one was, I'm not sure if it's necessary, but I was thinking that maybe a better integration of certain aspects could maybe enhance the portfolio. So for example, I know in each of the criteria you reference the evidence, right? But I wasn't sure about how much evidence should be inside the 500 words and how much should be separate. And I think that's only a decision that you can make, because you're reading something and then you sort of say, oh, evidence, evidence, evidence. And then you have to flick to the end of the portfolio.
Yes.
So that was just something that I thought might just save a bit of time. You may not actually have any space to do that, because I know some of your criteria were almost at the 500 word limit. So it's a balance. So that's something to think about maybe.
Yes.
Okay, so that was one thing. And the second thing was, each criteria has 3 parts, right? So if I can just share again. Okay, can you see that? Can you see that, Raj?
Not yet. Yes, I can see
Come
that
on.
now. Okay, one. Yep,
All
it's
right.
working.
I'm screen sharing. Good. Okay, so the first one is description and outcomes. So what you do, and why you do it, of course, is linked back to your teaching philosophy. And then you've got reflection and learning, and then you've got future specific development. So in the first one, the thing is, what do you do and why do you do it, and what have the outcomes been? And in the second part, it's like, well, when I look back at the evidence or the experience, what have I learned? And then based on that reflection and learning, what am I going to do in the future?
Sure.
Okay. So I thought your application could, the links between the second and the third parts could be strengthened a little bit. I don't know if it's necessary that part 2 has to lead into part 3, but I think it would be helpful if it did in some cases.
Okay.
Because like in the future specific development, you list 3 things here, right? So you say you continue to be a bridge between the students, the university, and the community. And 2, you say you work to bridge the gap, and you've put some quotes in there. That's good, because that sort of gives you a base of why you're doing it. So future specific development, what I would be looking for there is some reasons why you're doing that.
Okay.
So either through some learning that you've had, or some other thing that maybe has come up as a result of the learning, or something else. So that way it's all kind of linked and sort of leads into each other.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to turn off the screen share now. So I know that's asking a lot, but I think that's what they're looking for. And certainly with mine, when I got the referee reports for my HERDSA fellowship, that there were comments like, well, he's got a plan to do this, but there's no indication why he wants to do this or why it's important. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I agree with you. Yeah.
So and I think that could be. Like, I don't have to discuss all of the criteria, but that was a common theme throughout. I thought the common themes in your application were think about strengthening or embedding some of the evidence into the actual 500 words if you can, even if it's a picture, right? I mean, a picture doesn't take up any words.
Yes.
And you've done that very effectively in other parts with some of your models and some of your diagrams there. Do the 3 parts for each criteria really flow? Okay, are they justified? Okay, so that's sort of the high level feedback there about your application. So let me just have another bit of a look here. So I'm just going to, yeah. And so, I'm sure you're getting to know the criteria very well now. So essentially, if I go back to the, let's go back to the screen share, and let's go back to your table of contents. What do the criteria mean? Oops, sorry. Let me go back there. Okay. Can you see that? Can you see this? Is it 7? It's 7, isn't it? Okay. Can you see the criterion there?
Yes.
So basically, criteria 1 really, in my opinion, is asking you, are you focused on learning? Are you focused on students? You know what I mean?
Yes.
And then the second one says, is the assessment really aligned with the learning that you're interested in? Okay. And then the third one is an equity and diversity question. The fourth one is, do you actually know what's going on outside your own office or your own classroom? The fifth one is about innovation. The sixth one is about being a reflective teacher or a reflective practitioner. And the seventh one is, are you aware of the research either in your field or as an educational practitioner? So looking at those now, I can easily summarize what I think they're about. But when I was going through the process, it wasn't extremely clear on what those things really meant. So is there anything else, Raj, that you would like me to sort of look at? Because I think I'd rather give you some high-level stuff than really detailed stuff, because I think we've gone through the detail a lot.
Yes.
But are there any sections that you would like to discuss now, or any elements of it? Because we've still got a bit of time.
Okay. Now, I think I absolutely understand what the feedback you're giving me, and I 100% agree with it. I also felt when I was compiling it together that it is definitely a huge improvement from the previous drafts, but however, it's still not quite there yet. So, and I quite agree that there has to be a flow between these 3 different parts of these criterias. Other than that, and I'll definitely be working on them. I think if you look at other parts, say for example, if you quickly look at the references or the evidence, I have modified the evidence now. I have put them in under criteria and things. Do you think the evidence, they look okay? And do you think it looks all right? It's better than before, or what are your views on that?
Yeah. So when I looked through the whole document, the evidence really stood out. Not only because it was well presented, right? It was colourful. There was a range of stuff. There were pictures. There were quotes, all that sort of stuff. But also because you've been kicking the right kind of goals, Raj. So for example, you got the Butland Award, right? You can't argue with that. That's a prestigious faculty level award, right? And you can link that with a lot of the success that you've had in the last few years, right? So that was great. The second one is the promotion, right? That you should also link that into, because that's another signal that people are perceiving you to have kicked a few goals and met certain standards. I think that, oh, just excuse me for a sec, Raj. Not super well today. If I can have a quick look. Oh, just hang on a sec.
Take your time.
Hang on, I might do a screen share, and that way I can just have a cough in the back.
Have some water.
I don't have any. Yeah. All right. All right. All right. I'm back. So I'm now screen sharing, Raj. So let me see if you can see this. So one thing that's a bit of a bugbear for me is quotes that aren't actually embedded into the argument. So here I'm in part 4B evidence, and you've got these quotes here. Can you see them?
Yes.
Rush, or not yet?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Okay. So the thing is, these quotes are good, very strong, but they're not really embedded into your argument.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? So the way that I would do this, let's look at the at the third one, the second one. Sorry. Raj was very enthusiastic and invested in students, passionate about teaching and well prepared in seminars. Very refreshing experience. That's great, right? So you would want to point to that in some way, saying, "I'm very enthusiastic and invested in students. My students agree," with quotes like, "He's passionate about teaching and well prepared," or "He's very enthusiastic and invested in students." Those sorts of things. Otherwise, these things are just sort of sitting out there, really on their own, not really connecting with anything.
Gotcha.
So, you know, what do you think? It's thing is, it's a big portfolio. There's a lot of evidence there, and it depends how micro you want to get with it, if that makes sense.
No, it does. So I think I absolutely understand your point about embedding things and linking things well. And I think at this stage, the best thing for me to do would be to sleep over this portfolio and do that oiling and fine tuning. And once I feel that it's improved, I can send you the whole draft, and then based on what you're feeling, because I know that there will be certain things which will never be perfect, which will be, as you mentioned right in the beginning, it's someone's style of writing or someone's way of doing things. But on the whole, I want it to reach to a point where you feel more or less that, okay, this looks reasonably well for a chances of acceptance with minor corrections. Once you feel that, and once I feel that, that would be the point I would like to submit it. And I'm willing to wait as long as it takes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the right way, Raj. And also, you know, we're aiming for this year, the July conference this year, and so, you know, we still do have, you know, a few months, up our sleeve, but it is good to be mindful of the refereeing process and things like that, of course. Yeah. So what do you think, Raj? I think that's some food for thought. I think you should definitely have a sleep on it. It's more massaging now. I don't think there's any massive changes needed. And like you said, it's probably style as well. I don't want to put my style too much, you know, into this document. What do you think?
No, I absolutely agree with it, Chris. And I think all your comments today were very, very helpful and valuable. And you have just pointed me in absolute right direction. I think this is what I needed to hear at this stage.
Good. I think it's about 90% there, Raj. So that's my estimate.
Okay, great.
So let's give that 10%, you know. So how about we go into the green room and we can keep chatting, okay? So I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
All right. Great, Raj. See you later.